To the Christians in the ICC and RWC, in 2014, Tim C. Kernan and Jason Dimitri secretly embezzled well over $10,000 from the Eugene International Christian Church to the City of Angels International Christian Church. This was a major reason why the Hackett's, Lougheed's, Rios, and others left the Eugene Church and ICC in 2015, and what led me down the path to resign as the evangelist of the Eugene International Christian Church and parting ways with the ICC in 2016. To Tim and Jason, please be stupid enough to try and dispute anything I'm about to say. You're in way more legal trouble than you're letting your churches know about, and while we all are letting the legal team do their thing, I'm begging you to give me a reason to increase their workload. The bank statements from May 2014 to September 2014 of the Eugene International Christian Church can be subpoenaed. They will show large sums of money being transferred to the City of Angel International Christian Church that was not approved by its board of directors. So please be stupid enough to make lives and letters publicly lying or trying to change the narrative around what really happened in 2014. Background. In 2013, despite being planted nearly a decade earlier, the Eugene Church was not self-supporting, meaning that it did not bring in enough money to support its expenses. The reason why the church was not self-supporting is because Kip McKean sucks at building churches and has always needed to pillage members from other churches to inflate his numbers. This was true in the Boston movement, when well over 3,000 trained ministers from the main line joined the ICOC in the 80s, to the early days of the ICC. For example, you've been told the narrative that the ICC started with 42 disciples from Portland planting the LA church. This is inaccurate at best. The City of Angels Church started in 2007, with massive help from churches like the Eugene International Christian Church, the Portland International Christian Church, the Syracuse International Christian Church, and the Chicago International Christian Church, who supplied Kip with both money and people to plant the CAICC. The Eugene Church is unique, as you will find a Eugene Church member on every major and even most of the minor mission teams from the ICC in the first few years of the ICC. The constant pillaging of members and money by Kip left the Eugene Church in a perpetual state of flux. The members weren't lukewarm, they were tired from being used. At the end of 2013, a generous anonymous donor gave the Eugene ICC a large donation to support the church. This very large donation was specifically made for the Eugene ICC, and it was given with the expectations that it would not be used for needs outside of Eugene, since the Eugene Church was in danger of going under. I was asked to take over the Eugene International Christian Church in May 2014. Now I will refrain from saying why I was asked to take over Eugene, but understand that that move in out for more training or returning from the mission field reason is almost always BS. The ICC relocates evangelists primarily when he or his wife no longer wants to be a part of the ICC or no longer wants to do ministry. Please try and refute that last part. I have names, as you will soon see. In May 2014, the Eugene ICC missed its special missions contribution. And by missed, I mean that they failed to meet the demand for payment, subtly called a goal, that was given to them by the City of Angels Church. I get a call from Jason Dimitri after the Eugene's special mission collection, informing me that they missed their goal by a few several $1,000s, and that I'd probably have to do some fundraising after I took over the church for special missions. Not a problem. A few days later, I get another phone call from Jason informing me that the decision was made to use the money in the Eugene's church reserve to make up for special missions. That is illegal. Like most young evangelists in the ICC, I was never trained on the legality of practicing ministry, so I had no idea that it was illegal. The evangelist I was taking over for was not in a good mental state. A large amount of money like that needed to be approved by the board of directors before being allocated, and it never was in violation of the church's bylaws. The board didn't find out about the embezzlement until right before I showed up, leaving me with a mess of situation and no legal training on ministry. Jason Dimitri and Tim Kernan took advantage of me and the other evangelists' lack of training to convince us it was legal to allow them to transfer the money from the Eugene ICC to City of Angels International Christian Church. It was not. The money was mostly gone by the time I arrived in Eugene in June 2014, and I let Tim and Jason know that the Eugene Church will be out of money by September. I then had to ask permission from LA to not send them the monthly central administration bill. Let me repeat that last part. I, the evangelist leading the church in Eugene, had to ask permission from the LA church, a church only tied to Eugene at the point in time in name and relationship, for my church to not be required to pay the central administration fund that financed Kip McKean's and the world sector leader's lifestyle. At least I can say that for the majority of the time I led the Eugene International Christian Church, we were not financing the Central Administration Fund. And when people find out what the Central Administration Fund was actually being used for, it's going to gross them out. Tim Kernan spent the next year trying to pit me and Rich Hackett against each other. It never worked. But I will never forget the day when we both realized Tim was feeding both of us opposite information. I knew from the look on Rich's face this was probably it for him and the ICC. And I also knew I had a major decision to make soon as well. The Hacketts and other left a few weeks after that realization. And then I did a few months later. Why? Because after being discipled by Jason and Tim for nearly 2 years, I saw the kind of men they were and knew the ICC was not a movement of God. With men like Tim Kernan and Jason Dimitri at the top or close to it, it was not biblically or logically impossible for the ICC to call itself of God. Due to Tim's and Jason's gossip at the time, I could have told you about the Clarks' marital problems in Denver, why Mike Patterson would never be fit to lead the movement, why certain evangelist wives weren't cut out for the ministry, why Michael Williamson only has a church because of Tim, why Joe Willis is lukewarm, and why eventually we all going to lead our own group of church someday. Just the doctors talking about the patients. I know some of you have heard that one before. Tim and Jason gossip about other evangelists more than Jason's daughters and their friends did when I led the middle school ministry. Tim has this way of overselling that reeks of insecurity. Jason Woody is a witness and can testify that I rebuked Tim the first time I met him as campus student because of his pride in 2011. In my opinion, he's the insecure fat kid who lucked up and married the right sister. Tim is a much better manager than he is converter, which is why Kip asked me to move to the Long Beach in 2011, because Tim's is a good guy but doesn't really know how to do campus ministry. LOL. That's the great thing about Kip. He can't wait to give you the dirt on his people. Like Tim. Remember you tried to humble me in Long Beach by forcing me to learn from you, and then Kip made you give me a Bible talk. It tripled in a month and a half, and then he sent me to Moore Park. That's because Kip was using you the entire time. I could see that. Vic Sr. could see it. At times, even Jason saw it. I never wanted to become the type of man who was so spineless that he couldn't stand up when he was obviously being used. So as I got closer to the man who sincerely believed Kip was even considering leaving the movement in his hands when it was so painfully obvious he wasn't, I knew needed to get away from them. Otherwise, I would have become like him. Take away Tim's ability to bully people, and all you have is motivational speaker who cannot grow a church. Apparently, he led LA for several years, and it didn't grow. Tim is not good at converting people to Christ. Check the church stats. Bro, don't baptize people like that. To a normal Christian, this is no big deal. But to those who followed Kip, he's not fit to lead. What Tim is good at is getting people who are good at converting like Jason Dimitri to believe in him. Jason Dimitri is a recovering manipulative used car salesman. I know that may sound like slander and name-calling, and that's the problem. These men are willing to call you guys the wildest things behind your back, but if someone comes out and say what they are, plainly, they have trained you to ignore it, even when it's from credible sources. If you've read The 5 Habits of Highly Successful People, you've heard every Jason Dimitri sermon. His transition to Christian motivational speaker, as he's fighting these civil suits, is about to be amazing to watch. Jason's problem is he's a yes man. His rah-rah sermons are just that. Jason Dimitri's salary has always been one of the highest in the movement since 2014. His personal sacrifice doesn't come close to the sacrifice he demands of his church members. Don't be fooled. The very thing Jason claims to be taking a stand against is the very thing he's been helping to hide for years. Of course, Jason took all the money from the ICC bank account. That's what he did during the transition in Eugene back in 2014. Because Jason only takes stands, where's their security? Go ask Mason Semigalio Fedelica about my character. Tyler Quinahow. Sears will tell you about my days at the University of Oregon in 08. Luis Miguel Limon, Damon G. James. They all know the kind of man I am. Martha Karen Gregory, Sierra Gonzalez, Brooke Helm. Y'all go ask the people y'all fellowship with who knew me personally and ask them if, one, I'm the kind of man who lie about something like this, or two, I'm the kind of man who would have the courage to stand up to evil if I saw it or if I cowered to it. Let them tell you who I am. I don't even get involved with the ICC issues like this. Subpoena the bank statements. You'll find the money trail. I still have the emails from Michael Kirchner of the exact dollar amount that was in the Eugene bank account prior to my arrival. Call me Liar Tim. Say any of this false, Jason. Jason and Tim like to use the fact that they've coerced so many people into doing things against their conscience and sometimes even illegal acts in their effort to please Kip McKean to keep people from talking. They rely on your fear that you will stay quiet and won't speak truthfully about the things they've made people do. They like to evade the heart of issue to playing hot potato with fault, but wield their authority with absolute certainty. Call their bluff. I promise neither one of them are built like that. You have nothing to be scared of. These men like to use guilt, shame, and mudslinging to keep people from speaking up. But Jason and Tim will not be able to look their children in the eyes as men with the garbage that is about to be revealed that they helped cover up over the years. Don't fall for the, we had no idea, we were calling it out, we're taking a stand, we gotta stick together. BS. Jason needs you all to stick to him. Tim Kernan needs you to believe he had no idea. And no, I'm not picking up the phone to talk behind the scenes with pathological liars. That keep if off Facebook is code for don't expose me. I'm exposing these losers and you're a fool if you don't too. My name isn't on a lawsuit. I don't get anything from this but protecting people from the pathetic men that are Tim Kernan and Jason Dimitri doing their moral grandstanding right now. Again, if those bank statements ever get subpoenaed, they will have blueprint for how Kip McKean, with the help of men like Tim Kernan and Jason Dimitri, pressured their evangelists to illegally funnel millions of dollars from churches for years to fund a secret, ungodly lifestyle. I say all that to say this. If you're standing next to Tim Kernan or Jason Dimitri by the end of the year, you're a dumbass. And no, don't I apologize for my language and mean that with the entirety of my heart. If after all of these stories, after all these years, you are still tied to these men and the leaders like them, you deserve whatever 2025 and beyond has for you because some of y'all have been ignoring the signs for decades. Newsflash. Everybody knows there's no money in the ICC. People are filing lawsuit off the principle of the matter. They are going to see it through. You're all going to find out exactly who Jason and Tim are, and it's going to disgust you. If you're in the ICC or RWC, your entire world is about to drastically change. I know you feel like it has already, but it's not over. Not by a long shot. And because some of all didn't listen to those of us who took a stand in the earlier days, I don't wish what you're about to go through on my worst enemy. This isn't out of spite. This is off principle. Even though y'all turned your back on all us who stood on conviction, we're still over here living by principles. This is just a friendly warning from someone y'all used to consider a brother. Tim Kernan and Jason Dimitri are terrible people. You can realize it now, or you wait until your world is destroyed. I told y'all back in 2016 the ICC had less than 10 years until it collapsed. It's been 8 years and I'm telling you neither the ICC or RWC will be here by the summer. Continue to get played for a fool if want.